Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. And for those of you who prefer to watch and listen, you can catch this episode at YouTube. That's youtube.com/@talkdesignpodcast. My guest on Talk Design today is Purva Jain, and she is an architect from Dallas and also an interior designer. Now, she has a beautiful, beautiful style. She is also a good friend of Michael Malone's, and Michael is the one who introduced me. So if you don't know Michael, look him up as well. We're going to talk about design and all sorts of crazy stuff this morning. And she has projects that go across the States, Texas and beyond, also Hong Kong, and projects currently in New York as well. So we're going to dig into architecture, interior design, the story, and what makes these things part of the world that make the world a better place. Purva, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
I want to start off with somewhere, this is one of my very regular questions, somewhere this little girl discovered the word architecture or discovered architecture and then discovered there was a word for it. What was your journey that got you to being aware of architecture?
I actually started thinking about this when a good friend of mine asked me that question. And I grew up in India. I grew up in New Delhi, actually closer to New Delhi. There's a small city called Lucknow where I grew up. In Lucknow, when I was in 5th grade, my parents were designing their house. Oh. And we moved to a new house, and they went through the entire process of, it was an existing house that they remodeled and added on to. And they changed the entire interiors of that house as well. And my parents took me to every single meeting with the architects, with the designers, with the contractors. And I don't think they realized how much I was listening into, but I was listening to everything that was happening there. And I was just fascinated.
So I've got a button. They took you to, so in 5th grade, you're what, like, I don't know, 10 or something? Mm-hmm. Something like that. And they took you to all these meetings. Were you an only child, or was it because they thought you'd burn the house down if they left you alone? What was the deal?
Well, they thought I would burn the house down. That's true. I do have an older brother, but he is 7 years older than me. And so he was in high school doing his own things. And they couldn't leave me alone, and they thought I would burn down the house. So
it was kind of a babysitting mission. This babysitting mission you had to go to, but it lit the fire. You lit the fire in you, not in the house. It lit the fire.
Yeah. So that was definitely my first exposure to architecture. And I was absolutely fascinated how everything got put together. Since then, it never changed. I told them I wanted to study architecture, and I went to a 5-year architecture program in India after high school. And after that, I came to New York to do my master's, and I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, where I got a master's in architecture and urban design. So I guess all I have known all my life is architecture, nothing
Yeah.
else really. And, when I did undergrad architecture, it was also an art school. So all our lectures were in a room where everyone had a drafting board and, a studio.
Yeah.
It was a studio where you do your design work. And Pratt is also an art institute. So I've never really been to a real college, is what I say.
Right.
I think when I first went visiting a college and I saw a lecture hall, I was like, really? What do you do there?
What happens here? I want to do the thing, not listen to other people that are, well, not listen, but I don't want to just be spoken to. I want to do the thing. Yeah. That's interesting. Wow, what a journey, because
Yeah.
you didn't really get, I mean, you could have gone there and lit the office on fire, but you actually took it in, and it formed this journey, which is amazing, like really beautiful. Like it just sort of aligned you with something that you're passionate about. Clearly, you've got highly creative skills. That's obvious. Like, go and have a look on her website and you will all see the creative skills. But beyond that, you've got the analytics as well, which is, architecture is probably, I reckon, it's more than 50-50. The analytics are so intrinsically part of how to design, and that's the analytics of human behavior as well as of mass and structure and all those things. Which I've got a question about your family home that got done, which is, did they make it Western style or Indian style? And we're having this question because we were just talking before we started recording just about cultural differences and the way culture shapes things. So was it Western or was it Indian?
It was Western. It was Western style. It
Yeah,
was.
right.
Yeah.
And do they still live in that house?
They still live in that house. My brother and my brother's family is now in that house. And I'm fortunate that my brother is there taking care of my parents. But now they're again going through a massive remodel project of that house, much, much bigger than what I saw before. Probably much more beautiful too. Now they've kind of taken on a house that was behind there, kind of combined the two lots and made it even bigger.
Wow.
But that idea still stays in India, where a family home sort of gets passed two generations. I still see that in India versus in Dallas or a lot of America. I feel like you design a home as a commodity, which could be sold in 5 years, 10 years down the lane.
It's more of a wealth play than a community family play. Like we look in Australia, New Zealand, England, America, South Africa, these different countries that I know better than, I know other countries as well, but it's certainly, compared to say somewhere like Norway or Sweden or something, they aren't wealth gaining vehicles as much as they are in these other countries. We were talking recently, a group of us, and saying, if you got like a group of, I don't know, 10 of your friends together, everybody who owns a house knows how much it's worth in the current market. They know roughly the size of it. They know what it cost them to buy it. They know what other real estate around them costs. They've got an idea on their street or their neighborhood. And it is a topic of conversation. And you look at the number of TV shows that are on or channels even, but television shows that are based around housing and this, not so much the investment side of it, but like homes abroad and all these kinds of things. There's a whole genre of television that just exists, or shows that just exist based on this. We were saying, like, to have a show where you were basically, looking at each little genre of these things and how it develops in a country and what happens from that would be pretty interesting. And it doesn't seem to matter how wealthy or how poor a client is. And I shouldn't say poor, I would say modest versus wealthy would probably be better. They all have an idea. They all have a fairly good idea of what it is.
Yeah.
It's yeah, in India, surely the house is worth, those houses are worth a lot of money, but it's seen
Mhm.
as a community family kind of, I suppose.
That's
So
that's
the
a,
next,
to be honest, it's very difficult to probably figure out the value of the property too, because it has been in that family for so many generations.
right.
Um, I don't know if there are very clear records of those things. Certainly not clear online
Yeah.
records to be able to figure out how much it was transacted for 6 months
Yes.
ago versus what you're describing about in a lot of other places.
What we can do here, we can look up what it sold for 30 days after it sold. Yeah. Yeah. And we can't see necessarily who to, but we can if we know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like there's no real mystery in it. You can go, oh, well, that one sold for, 1.3 million, or it sold for 900,000, or it sold for 4 million, and you
Right.
can, we use that as a way of, when we're with clients, of looking at houses and going, what's the capitalization that we're looking at, an overall capitalization? How much is it of it is lifestyle spend versus how an investment in your lifestyle versus you could get this return if you sold it tomorrow.
Interesting.
Yeah, sort of
Right.
breaking it into those two structures. So like if you've got a short-term gain of, let's just say you think, oh, well, we're going to do this, we'll be in here for 5 years. Like this is a 5-year play for us, or house for us, because we're planning on doing these things in the future. Our kids will have finished school. We're going to go to wherever, we're going to move to, I don't know, Colorado. We're going to move to this other
Yeah.
place where we can pursue more of our lifestyle stuff. But while the kids are at school, we'll be here. And they go, oh, we're 7 years at the max. That will be it. And you go, okay, cool. So we want to sort of look at what we're spending now versus what we're likely to get for it in 7 years. And do
Yeah.
you make the best house in the street, or do you make the best yes, do you make the best house in a really expensive street, or do you make the best house in the next street down from the really best street, so that it's aspirational but it's not quite at that high price, and it makes it an easier sale? There's more people who can move into that street, da 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 da. Anyway, it's a long-winded kind of story, but it's an interesting kind of metric that you look at depending on how
Yeah.
long somebody wants to be in a house. So when you're designing a
Right.
home, if it's for somebody, they say, well, we're probably 5 years here. Do you happen to know what is the average home ownership period in America? Australia is 7 years.
I think America is 7 years as well.
Yeah. About every 7 years. I live in a house I've lived in for 15 years, so I'm a slow mover.
Well, I will probably stay in the house that I live in forever because I don't see the need to build any bigger than, like, I think I have enough space that I need. I don't need any more space. You can probably always try to keep getting more,
Uh-huh.
but I don't think there is a need for any more space than I do have.
This part really fascinates me. We've had, and America has as well, through COVID, the price of building has increased by, say 40% or more. In some cases, I'd say by 100%. But anyway, let's just say it's 40, 50%. And so if you took $1 million, it's probably worth somewhere around $600,000-700,000 now of build cost, if you're lucky. And so for every million you spend, you're only getting what you would have 3 years ago. You're only getting, 2/3 of it if you're lucky, and or less. And with that, the solution that I always think of is well, build smaller and smarter. Build smaller and smarter, or just spend the money. One or the other. It doesn't. I'm not judgmental on either side of that coin. I go, if you've got the
Right.
money and you want to spend it, go for it. If you don't have the money, or you're reaching a budget figure that doesn't work for you, then build smaller. And then there's need and the want of more. And I mean, I've been through your work. I've looked at it and all the res. I've stalked it. beautiful work and substantial size houses.
Yep.
And your clients probably just go, no, that's what we want.
That's absolutely right. And a lot of times also it's the neighborhood that you're in. If they're in a neighborhood where all the houses are, say, 15,000 square feet, and they're thinking they're not going to live there for more than 7 years, I don't think they would want to build a 5,000 square feet house there, because how is it going to sell in 7 years' time?
Yes.
So it's a lot of that as well. In addition to, they might not need that, and they might themselves realize that. However, they're in a neighborhood where houses are of a certain size. So,
right. Yeah, I'm just doing the conversion.
I think the biggest house that we are doing right now is a 30,000 square feet house.
Wow. That's a big house.
What does that convert to?
Somewhere around 3,000 square meters, I think. I don't know. You can do it on the internet to double check it. It's a good idea.
30, yeah, about 3,000 meters. Yeah.
3,000 square meters is a big house. Like the average house that would be in Australia, we build the second biggest houses in the world. The Americans build the biggest, or as a population. Most of my projects would run maybe between 400 and 500 square meters, which is tiny compared to that. And the biggest house I think I've ever done is about 1,200 square meters.
Got it.
Yeah.
I don't think the size, to be honest, matters that much. I think it's more
the finishes.
How it ends up, the space ends up looking and put together. Since we do full service architecture and design, a lot of times filling those rooms up becomes very challenging and very difficult.
So tell me about that. Because as you say, like these houses, like just go with the one that's say 1,500 square meters or whatever that first figure was there. Go with that and go, how many rooms does a house like that have? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many living rooms? And keep going.
So I think that it has about 7 bedrooms, each one with a bathroom
and a robe
and a closet, a closet. A living room, family room, dining room, game room, a gym area, has a basketball court, indoor basketball court. It also has,
outdoor kitchen.
Outdoor kitchen, 2 covered patio areas with an outdoor kitchen on first floor, second floor, a basement with a home theater, wine room, golf, indoor golf, a basement game room downstairs, and a game room on the second floor as well. Then there are some hidden rooms, 3rd story, which could be fun spaces for their kids and whatnot. So lots of fun little areas. I mean, you kind of have to get to that for
creative zones.
Exactly. So definitely a lot of spaces to play around with. But the coolest part about this house is that it is on a lake. And so you kind of get that view of the lake from every single angle, which is,
nice.
That's really beautiful. We're fortunate. Some of the projects that we've had are in some very beautiful landscapes and some very interesting projects as well. We are doing one project, which is, it's a boathouse on a client's private lake. So on one side of the lake, we are building this boathouse. And to the other side of the lake, we are building a tiki hut, which will be
You just got me.
And then the boathouse, it's a 2-story structure, which has a rope swing, a slide, and it will have a zip line from the boathouse to the tiki hut. Yeah. That's going to be another one of those very interesting projects. So not necessarily a house, but
it's a playground. It's an adult playground. I think,
it really is.
it's fantastic when you get to play like that. And then they, people who build these homes, they build them for them and their friends and their families and to enjoy, like they build them to be able to come to my place and enjoy all these things. And it's like an adventure. Yeah, I had a client a few years back, and he said to me, we would love, I have a little thing when I'm going through my process, and I say, what will this project, if it doesn't have this, it won't go ahead. So what are the things it must have? Because those are our non-negotiables. And there's, I mean, that might be, 7 bedrooms, for example, might be a non-negotiable. We need 7 bedrooms, so we're having them.
Yeah.
But then I have one that's, like the last one is, and if it didn't, particularly affect budget or anything else, what would be the fantasy things you would have? And anyway, this couple, they had acreage property, and she said, oh, horse trails. And I'm like, really? And her husband looked at her and went, really? And she said, yeah, I would love horse trails. He said, we'll get those done this week. He said, let's get it done like this. It takes nothing. It's just some contractors to cut out trees and make them wide enough for the horses and da 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 da. And she's like, really? It was like this moment. And I'm like, wow. And anyway, and his was a flying fox, so a zip line that he could drop into the pool with.
What?
Yeah, so he wanted a tower that he could jump off the flying fox as it went over the swimming pool. And again, it wasn't super expensive.
That's
How
awesome.
cool is that, eh? Like, and I'm kind of like, you hit the edge. I want no responsibility, not my fault. But just that kind of thing, again, a play space. And because it was on acreage, it had space and it had the ability to have these other things. And there was already a stable that was going to be done up as part of the design work I was doing. So yeah, we would be creating this stable into a better stable. And just, but just horse trails. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, of course. Through the trees instead of just being around paddocks. Yeah. So I love the fact of the tiki hut. You did have me there. I love that tiki hut thing. And I love it when you see it in Hawaii and in, Tahiti and places like that. I also love it when you see, like, there's a restaurant I've been to a number of times in Austin, Texas. Can't think of the name of it, but it's like a kind of pseudo-Japanese tiki hut restaurant. Really cool. Having themes that are like, they break the state of your mind and you transition when you use them, I think is a wonderful gift to be able to do with homes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. What I enjoy the most about this process of designing custom single family homes is the journey of going, just talking through with the clients and actually understanding how they envision to use a space and how if it's a growing family would be using the space, and thinking through the areas that they might need and the spaces that might be helpful to them. I think that to me is the most exciting part of this whole process.
I'm with you. I think that drawing is the joy of the job, the actual drawing of it. I love the drawing of a job, but learning your clients is the most exciting part of the job and interesting part of the job. Learning them and learning what makes it magic for them and what makes things special for them is always the most exciting part of the job. And I kind of like peeling them back and looking into them and finding out, what drives them, like finding out that they want a tiki hut from a boathouse with a zip line. There's a conversation that gets you to there. And that's the magic, is how does that evolve? And then what does it really mean to them to have something like that? What freedom does it give them? Where does it shift them to in their mind? What does it make them able to be and do?
Yeah.
There's
Well, then I look back and think, once those projects, finish, I look back and think, why didn't I write in the contract that I should be using that space anytime I want?
yeah, exactly. When you go to your mountain house, I have your house. Yeah. Why isn't that in the contract? Yeah. Exactly. I totally get that. One of the good things
Or
about sometimes designing for friends is that you get to stay in some of your own designs.
yeah, or write in the contract that I get to throw a birthday party at that tiki hut.
Absolutely. I'll tell you an interesting one that we have done in the past is it's got to be the right client that we can do it with. But we will throw a party, like a housewarming party for them in the tiki hut. And we get to invite a number of guests and they get to invite a number of guests. So we might get to invite, say, 5 guests. Yeah. And the 5 guests that we would invite might be clients that we're working with or future clients and people that we've got some sort of agreement with. It might be maybe a magazine editor or something like that. And then they get to invite, say, whatever it is, however many guests they want. And we contribute to that party. And then we tell the story of the project in that party as well. So we do a little presentation, tell the story of the project. And it's a magic, it's so fun. And it just changes, I suppose, I want to say the ownership, it changes sort of the focus of what this journey was like. Like I had a client who wanted a pool on the 2nd floor of the house so they could hop in it on the 3rd floor. But when they said to me they wanted a pool, I'm like, you're living on the 3rd floor, you'll never use it. What for? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you're going to have to go either down the lift or down the stairs. And she said, I'm not going downstairs. Like I was really stupid. I'm not going downstairs. And I said, so well, where's the pool? And she said, up here. I'm like, gotcha. Yeah, we can do that. But, in my mind, I'm thinking, what a waste of time putting it down there. You'll hardly ever use it. You're right by the beach. Why would you use it? You've got downstairs, you've got garaging, a gym and an entrance and a lift, so why would you use it? I go, but she's like, no, put it up here in the air. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, no worries.
That's always fun.
It is, isn't it? And here's me being, super practical and probably thinking way too small and in my thinking of, what they're looking for at that moment and just trying to think of really practical solutions and not moving quickly enough to what's playful and what's the true practicality is put the pool up there. Yeah. So I think, tell me some other stories from tiki huts and zip lines, some fun things that you've created that you just you look back and you go, we did that. I can't believe it. That's amazing.
I was thinking about this. We did one house that was 80,000 square feet.
Wow.
Which is 7,500 square meters. Yeah.
That's a small town in Australia.
And I used to always joke that I'm going to design a closet in this house and go hide in there when they move in, and no one will find me for years.
I know you need to design a kitchen and everything in there so that you could survive long enough.
Yeah. So that house was on a thoroughbred farm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it had 2 basements. One basement had an Irish pub, a gun range, a bowling alley, an indoor pool, and a really big game room. And the second level of the basement was a wine cave. It was designed by a cave engineering company from Napa, and they built an actual cave they were wine collectors, and they brew their own beer as well.
Wow.
So that was definitely very interesting. And I was talking to you about how I feel fortunate to have been in a lot of very interesting landscapes. There's one house we did in Hong Kong, which was on the Peak in Hong
Oh, wow.
Kong.
Yes, I know the Peak well. Yeah.
So having to design a house on the Peak, sort of overlooking the entire city of Hong Kong, that was quite something.
And deal with the feng shui people.
Oh wow.
I knew that would take us somewhere.
There was one client I had where the husband was Indian and believed in Vastu, and the wife wanted to follow feng shui. And I had never designed a house that I had studied feng shui or Vastu, so I went and studied both of them and realized there are a lot of conflicts. You cannot design the same house with both of those things because there are so many conflicts. One talks about the bedroom facing one direction, whereas in the other one, the bedroom facing that same direction is an issue. So there are a lot of different conflicts, and it cannot be the same house.
So tell me this, how did you manage that?
We came up with a design where pretty much you could look at the design and realize that none of it did not work functionally. It did not work as
so you did that first.
We did that first, and we realized that none of this is working. And then we designed a house as we think it should be, taking some elements from feng shui and some elements from Vastu. And then we had to explain to the client, I never like to say no.
No, that's part of being a designer, is to solve the problem.
Yeah, I first like to listen, try to figure out if that's even a possibility, and at least try our best first before coming to the conclusion of why that's not possible or why something is not possible. The clients were definitely very understanding when they themselves realized that it's not going to work and it needs to be something different.
And doing the two designs gave them the ability to see that. See
it very clearly, this way or the other.
So
I think I'd mentioned you a lot of times also what helps us when we're doing these designs is because we no longer do our meetings showing the clients blueprints, if you will, or floor plans and elevations in a 2D format. We like to give our clients an Oculus headset. And let them walk into their house and move around and see how you feel and how you feel in a certain room. Like there are times when the client's going to walk into a dining room and I'll pull a chair behind her and say, why don't you sit down and feel what your room looks like? And, tell me, what do you think? And I think that has completely changed the way our interaction with the clients used to be. Which so amazing. Go ahead.
I was talking to Heather McKinney from McKinney York, and we were talking about books. And with books, we were chatting about the fact that there are people who read the last chapter and then read the book. And then there are people who, in architecture, see a blueprint and then suddenly see, well, not suddenly, but over a period of time, see a house. And we know that when the framing goes up, they'll say, oh, it's too small. Or when the slab goes down, it's too small. We know all these things that happen. And one is an incredible journey of faith, hope, and trust. And the other one that you just described is one of, we've read the last chapter. Now we're ready for the journey. We know the outcome. We can trust the outcome. Can you take me through the journey of the transition from two-dimensional to Oculus? And as you said, you put a chair underneath somebody so they can sit and experience their room. A, for the client, B, for you as a company, and what has it allowed you to do and become versus being in 2D?
So this started about a few years ago. We used to be only an architecture studio. We did not do any design at that time. And I never liked the fact that anytime we would show architectural drawings to our clients, there was not necessarily a huge conversation. The dialogue had a very short span. The dialogue was not as detailed as it should be when you're designing someone's house where they're going to live in. And when the interior designers brought in materials or material palette, the conversation had a lot of life in it and had a lot of excitement in it. And that excitement never happened when there was architectural meeting. To be honest, I was very jealous.
Yeah,
I
I
did
love
not
it.
like it. I just wanted that excitement to happen when we're talking about architecture as well. And I wanted that same level of detailed conversation to happen with the clients when they're talking about architecture as well.
Yep.
And I also started seeing that, like you described before, that clients would go to their house in framing stage and look and be like, oh, this is not what I thought this would look like, which became a very regular sort of thing that I kept hearing over and over again.
And you'd have to nurture them through it or solve something along the way because of it. Yep.
Yeah. So because of that, you would start solving it at that time, versus in our minds, that has been the case ever since. That is how it was designed. They just
and for these
that.
reasons, but the reasons don't translate when you talk to them about it to what it becomes. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of when, I wanted to explore what happens if we, do everything in 3D and change our softwares from AutoCAD to BIM and start using BIM in the office. When we started using that, one of the people that works with me, one day, he's a big gamer as well, Gabo, he told me about Oculus and said, hey, you want to see what this looks like? And it was more sort of in a joking format that let's see how this looks like. And I put that on and I was just absolutely blown away that the amount of detail that you could see, because I was seeing everything in 2D, but suddenly it felt like what I was seeing was live in front of me, not
Well, you
something that I
can
was
visualize.
imagining.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can visualize 3D and
I can
space
visualize in my
and
mind, but
yeah.
I could just suddenly see how other people would start seeing it very clearly as to what we are saying. And then I did a little experiment where I took it home and, made my husband wear it and told him to walk around and just kind of to see his reaction. And he was like, he finally engaged with me on an architectural project that he has nothing to do with architecture and design. So the first time I had a dialogue about architecture with him, which I had never ever had before. So
you got a new husband at that point as well. Well, you did. You opened up a side of him
I
that
really did.
yeah. It's amazing.
And obviously at that time, we just did architecture, so everything on the inside was a white box.
Yeah,
And
which
slowly we wanted to start putting in all the finishes that were being chosen in those spaces.
in the white
So
box.
we started collaborating with the interior designers to ask them if they could send us all the finishes so we could put them in there and see what that looks like. And that's kind of where we were like, okay, we would want to do and think about this whole design ourselves as we are going through the process and have all the interiors aspect of things within the office and try to evolve our entire design ourselves. And clients also started coming back to us and saying that, because every time they would change a wallpaper, they would be like, oh, but I want to see what that looks like. Can I see what
Yeah.
that looks like?
Yeah.
So they would kind of keep coming back to us and saying, can you just show me what that looks like before I decide what I want to do? So it was a little bit of both of those things that got us into realizing that we should be offering full service architecture and design and not
Uh-huh.
necessarily just architecture, which also started making our BIM models look a lot better on the inside than a white box and more
Mm.
realistic on the
Mm.
inside. And yeah, since then, I think we're just learning and evolving as we move forward. But that excitement that I used to be jealous of, I'm not
It's
jealous
now
of anymore.
yours. Yeah, it's now yours. I think, a couple of fascinating things, as you said there, that the word I wrote down when you started telling us was the excitement. I put, the Oculus headset and the fact that it creates that amazing level of excitement for your clients, and the surety that it creates as well. How do you manage the indecisiveness of, these 10 wallpapers? Or how do you manage that? How do you manage the indecisiveness of, we really love this entry, but the sparkle isn't in their voice. And that because you're so good at reading people. And it's like, I want the sparkle. I want that. I want their eyes to twinkle. I want them to light up. And we didn't get there with that. Tell me about that.
It just happened last Friday in a meeting where we were looking at a kitchen and we were the clients were very set on the idea that they want all the cabinets, an
Uh-huh.
L-shaped kitchen, island in the middle, and on the other side of the L to finish, if it were a U, on the other side is our windows and a
Yep.
breakfast nook looking
Uh-huh.
out.
Yep.
And the clients had always envisioned in their mind it to be entirely white kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
There are stained beams on the ceiling.
On the ceiling. Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to them that I think we should have white painted cabinets perhaps on the back wall, but on this other wall, I would love to explore stained cabinets
Uh-huh.
for this entire wall to have that. And there was no sparkle, no tinkle, like you
Yeah.
said. And they didn't say no, but they didn't say yes. And there was no, didn't really, very undecisive on how they would want to see it. At that time, we did not have, anything visual to show. And now that we see this happen so often, one of the team members that was in the meeting was like, let me just show you. And he quickly changed that one side to a stained wood cabinetry
Tip my
side. And they
finish.
were like, aha, yeah, we need to do this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it's those little things that are very difficult to describe in words.
Yeah.
But when you kind of just show it side by side
It just
on
makes
a
it so
large,
clear.
it makes
Yeah.
it so
Makes it
clear
so clear.
to
It's
everyone.
and in that way you create a better home and a more harmonious home for them as well. And they will probably also remember that moment. It'll be one of the
Yeah.
moments they talk about to other people. We were going to do an all-white kitchen. And then, the design team said to us, we really think that you could have timber over here, but they can't visualize it. So then you do it for them, and then they go, oh, what? I same journey. Monday, I had some clients. I don't do virtual reality. And I said we were choosing, so it's a renovation, but this whole new piece is on the house. It's got a kitchen in it, same journey. And I said, we'd chosen some flooring and we'd chosen some other pieces and all those sort of hard fixes. And I said, I'm thinking with your kitchen that we should make the back wall of it black. And now, not completely black. And they just looked at me like in horror. And I said, what it's going to do. And I described what it would do. And the jury is out. The jury is out. So what I did is I hand sketched for them while we were sitting in the selection studio, I hand sketched the back wall of their kitchen for them, and then put another layer over it and colored it in just with pencil so that it was dark, and then showed them, I hand sketched the room basically, and showed them where the light would be coming from, what would be happening, and what they would see out of the back window of the kitchen, because to the boundary, it's probably only maybe 3 meters, but that whole boundary is a green wall, and it'll be a planted green wall of herbs and stuff. And then there's a door out of the kitchen that takes you to there. And it's a beautiful, ideal growing spot. It's only an urban block, so it's not a big block. But just that thing, again, if I'd been able to go, well, we haven't done, we're still in BIM modeling for the project.
Yeah.
But we've done it in pencil and we know where we're going. But then in these finishes things, it won't make any difference to the cost of the finishes, but it will make a difference to how the place feels. And it'll make that kitchen, if I put a dark wall in the back of it, it'll make it engage with the garden outside. And it will also mean, because it's at the back of the house looking over a living and dining area and out into a pool and into a landscape, it will kind of anchor it in the back. You'll feel a bit of weight back there. And all your visual piece of the kitchen is facing out to the light. So you kind of be like your back's in the cave and you're looking out. But getting people to understand that and feel that and trust that is another journey, just like you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
Those clients in particular, if I'd done it the way you do it, they would have been like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The same as yours. Yeah. It's fascinating.
It's definitely the engaging aspect in architecture is very different when you do a custom residential project versus when you do a small commercial project. The emotions attached are very, very different.
Yeah, 100%, like hugely different.
Yeah. And I think it's those emotions that thrive and, make me so excited about what I do every day, that keep me going on I'm not sure if it's the best business decision to keep doing.
Because the amount of time it takes and the amount of resource it takes is A, expensive, but B, it process-wise.
Yeah. It takes a lot. Yeah. For example, we're doing a 15,000 square feet house right now in Dallas, which is under construction right now. But from design start to construction, I would say about 2.5 to 3 year long journey. And another interesting thing that happens in residential projects is, and I always tell the clients this, is that in the 3-year period or 4-year period, when your house will be getting constructed.
From design to construction, yeah.
From design to construction, you are going to be living a life. You're going to be traveling. You're going to be going to friends' houses. You're going to be going to cool restaurants. And now that you have been through the design process, your eyes are going to be looking for that cool thing that you're going to come and tell me about and be like, hey, can we do this here? And can we add something else there? So the design process might finish at construction, but it really does not finish. And it might.
So that makes it more complicated on your part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way more.
So I feel like most of the projects, perhaps sometimes the architecture side stops, but on the interior side, it keeps evolving till the clients move in.
Yeah, I totally get that. That is part of their journey. And even once they've moved in, then they will start to personalize other little pieces, like there'll be other pieces that they go, oh, we saw this, so we've added this. Or I get them sometimes, because we do both. I get them sometimes, they send me a photo from a store, and be on a Saturday afternoon or something, and they'll go, I'll see a photo come up on my phone, and it's like I do not encourage this, by the way. So anybody listening, I do not encourage this. But they will be, we just saw this. Can we get it? And I'm like, you can get whatever you want. Where's it for? Oh, well, it's for our, whatever room. And then in my head, I'm going through my design because it's nowhere near me. I'm going through my design and all the things that are happening. And I'll go, like it's going to be too broad, or it's going to be, yes, it would work. Or if you do that, that means we'd probably change this, or, this could be a conflict. So, if you don't have to buy it now, then let's go and look at it. Let's make sure it's right. Get me all the details, get me the measurements, get me all those things. But yeah, interesting, eh? As I say, I do not encourage that.
But I mean, in addition to that, they are living a life as well. So babies turn into toddlers, and toddlers, the kids
go to school, and
yeah. So the needs also start evolving and start changing, which sort of changes the design a little bit. I almost feel like it's my responsibility as an architect and designer when we begin with them to realize what stage of life they're in and to think through where they'll be at when they actually move in.
Do exactly the same thing. And, we try and future pace 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, just times, future pace those. And in future pacing those, I'll be like, so your kids will have left school now. And they're like, oh, wow. I go, so, say they've got daughters, or even if they haven't. So could you imagine having a wedding on this lawn? And if we did that, then would we be putting up a marquee? What would we be looking for to make that happen? And they're starting to go, oh, wow, yeah, I've got a 21st party that my son's going to have, or this is going to happen. And they future pace that. And we're talking about those things right back at the start. Well, before we've drawn anything, and going, so if that was how you were going to use this place, then what do we think it would need now? And what do we think it would need for the future? And then again, this is that peeling back the person to discover the design.
Right. Right. That discovery for sure is, the most fascinating, exciting part.
Yeah, without a doubt. I love it. I've got a couple of last questions for you. One is, you'll have heard them on other podcasts. I'm going to do 3, actually.
Okay.
The first one's going to be, if you could ask any architect living a question, what would you ask them? And it'd be a specific architect. So who would you ask what?
Which architect I would ask what?
Yeah. And what's the question you'd ask them?
I would ask, I worked for an architect called Robert Stern Architects when I was in New York. And I think I would ask him, what did he really think his firm would take the direction that it's at right now when he started his business?
Right. I like it. So I'm sure as a listener, we'll get an answer. I think it's a fascinating question. I think it's a great question, what drove that? Yeah, what drove where it is now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Another question. What is your favorite place in your own home, and what emotion does it evoke for you?
So I built myself an office it's my home office, and that overlooks my backyard. And the portion that sort of overlooks the backyard I built reading nook there. So I think that space definitely is my favorite place in my house. I've probably spent some of the most difficult moments when I don't know what to do in business, in design, in life, on that little bay window that has, bookshelves on either side, and it's a bay window looking to the outside. Also, I have memories of my newborn babies being on that bay window and me
wow.
working away in that same office. So yeah, that's a very special space for me.
And if you had to use one word, one emotional word?
For the space, calm.
I love it. I love the journey of that as well. One last question. You have one project left. This is it. There is no more projects. You can't do any more architecture or any more interior design. It's over. This is it. What do you choose as your last project?
Out of the current
No,
projects I have,
no,
or
no, it's a fresh one. You can choose anything in the world.
I would love to design a preschool.
Oh, wow. Tell me about that.
My kids are young, so I've been to a ton of different preschools. But every time I walk through the halls of those preschools, I feel like they are not designed for the little people that are in there. They're designed for the older people that are talking to the little people, but they're not necessarily designed for those little people. I would love to design a preschool for the client that comes in there.
Yeah, right. I love that. Educational spaces shape so many things. We were talking right at the very start about here you are as a 10-year-old. To go back to preschool, it's still shaping all the tactility, all those things that happen. I think it would be fun to see what preschool you would design.
I hope I design one soon, and I hope I get to design the way I have some thoughts in my head.
You envisage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, putting it out
sometimes
there. I think that would be, yeah, like I love that preschool kind of idea because it is so, you know what it's like. You've got little kids. So I remember, the journey of living life through the child's eyes again. And whilst I'm still like, for all intents and purposes, a big child, or my wife thinks I am, it's just amazing what you see and the way you take time differently when you are 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, compared to what you see and how you take life now. And, there's a beautiful purist in that journey. Well, Purva, fantastically unwrapping journey, like this whole journey of where you came from in architecture, what the fun projects, the fun side of it, and the unwrapping of people. And I really, really enjoyed the excitement of Oculus doing it with 3D and virtual reality. That's probably my favorite conversation around that I've had in all the podcasts I've done, and I've got a few others that love it as well. But I got the excitement that you get from it. And I love the fact that you said, I was jealous. I love that. Because, you could see that you could do so much more. And that was really cool. Really, really cool. Thank you so much for all your time. And I look forward to meeting you in Dallas.
Thank you. I look forward as well. Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you, Adrian. All right.
Thank you. It was brilliant. Cheers, hon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.